Johnny, I'm sure you'll be happy to hear that too, actually.
Oh, yes.
But it's a whole different place. People are excited again. They're going out to restaurants again. That was the other thing I saw numbers that restaurant business is down in the last week. I know. Restaurant business, you can't get into a restaurant. Just really lying people. And that's why people don't understand how bad and how dishonest the process.
Okay, that's the president of the United States at his desk, the resolute desk, surrounded by FIFA and representatives here to talk about the World Cup, wearing his stupid hat in the White House Oval Office for a meeting indoors to smear the actual truth. The numbers about restaurant reservations being down in DC didn't come from the media. It actually came from the restaurant reservation sites. Okay. And yes, it's down. You all have friends in DC. They don't want to go out where there's roving bands of federal agents in mass harassing people on the streets, picking people up if they look vaguely Latino. That is what's going on in Donald Trump's takeover of Washington, D.C. And as always, he's lying about what's actually happening. My favorite one is, if you guys heard yesterday, he said he was going to go on patrol with the DC National Guard and patrol the streets. Ended up just going over a base, I think Union Station, delivering. That's a lot of air quotes. Delivering pizzas to guard troops who are stationed in a city. I think they're actually in Union Station, which has a really great food court. Just opened some new places, as a matter of fact. It's all bullshit. It's all deception. It's all nothing to see here. Okay. The Epstein files, wherever you want to deceive us from. There's a lot of really important anti-democratic stuff happening. And one of the big ones, of course, we're talking about is the march towards ensuring that he does not lose power during the midterms. And that is a big one because the midterms are coming up. And folks, that's important to all of us. That is our chance to take back the country. Stop this march toward autocracy. Stop this thieving for the rich and this big billionaire bill. It's outrageous. And, it's so ludicrous what's happening. Obviously, this week, the Texas House passed the new gerrymandered districts, a mid-decade redistricting. Okay, so let's be clear. You guys and I, you heard me talk about this already. This isn't about gerrymandering. This is about a mid-decade redistricting to satisfy Donald Trump's thirst for power, period. And of course, California responded, which is got a actual system where you can't just do it if you feel like it, but they have responded by signing off on a special election to redistrict. But here's Greg Abbott, the guy who started all this when Donald Trump called and he jumped as high as he could, being his limitations, and said, yes, sir, let's do it. But this is Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, responding to California.
And so what the Democrats have done is disgraceful and potentially illegal. I'll tell you this much. If California dares to try to squeeze out more Republicans, there are going to be lawsuits that will overturn that. What I can tell you in the state of Texas, the 5 Republican seats that we are adding, they are going to withstand legal challenges, and those will be Republican members added to the United States Congress.
He's not even hiding it, guys. He added 5 Republican districts, not fair representation, not making sure that everyone's represented a fair way. They decided they wanted to have 5 more Republicans in Congress. So they redistricted and did it. And all he cares about is, does it pass the courts? Of course, who knows? I mean, who fucking knows at this point? It may, who knows? But that's the point. This is about politicians picking their voters instead of voters picking their politicians, period. And they know it's a theft. And that's just part one. This is my own governor in the state of, I want you to listen carefully. This is Governor Mike Kehoe about 3 days ago. As you may have heard, Trump called Missouri. He's got the Freedom Caucus people here too, and they're going to they're hoping to redistrict. So we have 9 seats in Missouri. We've had them for 4 years, and they hoping to get 7-2 is what they say right now. 7 pretty strong Republican districts, and then 2, city of St. Louis, city of Kansas City. Representative Cleaver is in Kansas City. They're hoping to get rid of him. Okay. Kansas City, a rich, diverse city led by a black mayor. They hate it. This is the governor of Missouri when asked about it.
I thought he meant we were in for the FBI piece. So that's the way I read that. And I guess maybe I misread that. But so we're again grateful for the investment in public safety through the FBI. We've said all along, you've heard me say this for the last 2 or 3 weeks. We're working with our legislative leaders. The president's right. He has won the state 3 times in a row, and we're going to continue to work, look at ways to get Missouri's values to match Washington, D.C.'s values.
Missouri's values to match Washington, D.C.'s values. No, I want Washington, D.C.'s values to match Missouri's values. And that's what the governor of Missouri should be saying. The governor of Missouri shouldn't say, I'm going to redistrict because Donald Trump asked for it, just because Donald Trump has won the state of Missouri 3 times in a row. That's exactly what he had a whole ass revolution about. No, and it's not just because he won the election. He gets to pick another congressman to have. That's not how this works. It's discussing the governor of Missouri, even suggesting such a thing. But my favorite part, as a Missourian who was raised here, who grew up here, joined the army from here, and came back 4 years ago, the idea that governor of Missouri thinks that we should have DC values. I love DC. I lived outside of DC for 13, 14 years. Let me tell you, I love the values of Missouri. And the whole point of having representatives is to go to Washington, D.C. and represent our values. But that's not all. That's not all. The last thing is this guy, the same guy we started with. This guy, he also decided this week, after suggestion from Vladimir Putin, the ruthless dictator of Russia, that mail-in voting is bad. This guy decided he's going to do that too. Here's Trump yesterday, or a couple days ago.
We got to stop mail-in voting, and the Republicans have to lead the charge. The Democrats want it because they have horrible policy. If you have mail-in voting, you're not going to have many Democrats get elected. That's bigger than anything having to do with redistricting, believe me.
Has nothing to do with the fact that many people work on election day, can't go to the polls. Many people live far away without public transportation to the polls. They've purposely done that for years. Of course, then there's all the other requirements. Mail-in voting is absentee ballots, okay? Do you know where it started? 1864, in the front lines of the Civil War, so that soldiers could vote in the election for Abraham Lincoln. Republicans started absentee voting. Millions of people across the world and in the United States use absentee ballots. The mail-in voting is the little bait and switch they're trying to pull on you to make it sound evil. The fact is, more and more people vote by mail because they simply cannot get to the polls on election day. And the Republicans know that. They know their base right now, for reasons, likes to vote in person. So they're trying to fix the system once again, 15 months before the midterm, to rig it so Donald Trump, he knows he's in trouble. And they're not running on their values. They're not running on their policies. They're not running on their successes. They're running on one thing: fix the system so we don't get elected. We don't get voted out. Well, folks, I don't know about y'all. I ain't playing that game, and we're not taking it. But I want to switch the conversation just a little bit, because here in the Maya Touch, we talk about Trump a lot. Obviously, we've been very supportive of what Mr. Newsom's doing and others, the Democrats who are fighting back. I love all that. But here's the thing, too. We also need to have a better argument as Democrats than Trump bad. We get that, okay? You guys know my bona fides, as they like to say, as far as being a never Trump person, having been doing this for over a decade and leading the Lincoln Project. But in the end, we also have to say, look, that guy is not offering what you need. The bills they're passing are hurting Americans. The big billionaire bills, I call it, is the largest transfer of wealth to the upper 10% in the history of the United States. People cannot afford to live. So Democrats also need to go into the midterms and say, look, we get it. These are really bad things, but just saying we'll be the opposite of that isn't good enough. We also have to have a plan. And look, you could call it Project 2026. I don't really care. But what I did catch notice of is Representative Greg Landsman, who represents Ohio's 1st District. Greg Landsman came out with a list, actually, of policies, perspectives, and 10 bills he calls his pledge to America. He's been floating this for about 2 weeks. It's pretty. He put an op-ed out. We'll put a link in there for you. But I think you may have heard me talk about this before. But Representative Landsman has like 10 bills he wants to pass right away. Obviously, turning back the big billionaire bill is the big one, but also touching on things like the immigration, touching on affordable housing, touching on healthcare for all Americans, touching on equality, touching on voting rights. All those things are in his Pledge to America list of 10 bills. So I wanted to, while we talk about at the beginning here, what the evil things Trump and his machinations are occurring and his Republican friends are doing, we also need to say that's that, but here's our plan to make life better for average Americans. Here's what we're going to do. So we need to stop Trump, yes, but we also need to do something fast that changes the direction of this country, because I'm telling you, folks, more and more average Americans are falling further and further behind. And you know it. You hear it every day. And it's not just the price of eggs. It's not the price of beef. It is the price of here in Missouri, where I live, our electric company, thanks to a bill passed by the Republican legislature, just increased our rates 12%. They managed to get a bill passed that says if they even think about building a power plant, they can raise rates to raise the money for that plant before even having a plan. And they took advantage of that immediately with a 12% hike in our electricity rates at the height of summer. That's the future if we don't get this under control. And that's why I'm thrilled to have Representative Greg Landsman join the show with us tonight, talk about his plans, what he sees, and of course, these current events. So let's get on the show. I've been talking for a while. As you know, this is On Democracy F. Wellman. I am Fred Wellman, right here on the Midas Touch Network every Friday at 7 p.m. live. Let's get on with the show. I'm glad to have you here. I'm thrilled to be part of the family. I love seeing some of your regulars join us. Let's do it. Welcome back. I am still Fred Wellman, just like I was 30 seconds ago. This is On Democracy FP Wellman. Thank you to Midas Mighty being out on Friday night to watch the show. We're thrilled to have you. I'm really excited about this guest. We're trying to get him on for a couple of weeks. He's hard man pinned down, even during the off cycle. He's out running around doing important shit. I am just great. If you haven't heard of him already, maybe you saw him when we did it In the Hot Seat about a year ago now, ironically. He did a hot seat with me discussing his run. Of course, Congressman Greg Landsman actually represents Ohio's 1st district. He is actually J.D. Vance's congressman, if you think, which is something to think about. And he's a Democrat. So we love the fact, we love talking to you. Let's get Greg in the thing. Greg, sir, welcome to the show. It's good to see you again, sir.
Good to see you. Thank you. You're on, yeah.
You can't get a break, can you? I think this is some vacation you're having, huh?
Well, the district work periods are actually my favorite. I'm going to sound super politician-y right now, but it's not. It is true. You come home, you do tours of businesses, of plants, of schools. I did a career, tech, facility today.
Yeah,
amazing. I did a tour of a steel company, of Pfizer. We produce Halprin here, which is a blood thinner used in most surgery. Anyways, it's you learn a ton. You pick up a ton of work. Town halls. We did a town hall last night. I like being in the district. I like getting a sense as to what people are talking about, what they want you to work on, and then you can go get things done that matter to folks back home in a way that makes everyone feel like, oh, this is good work, as opposed to just like sitting in DC where you're like, dealing with the chaos and just sort of, the frustration of this moment, right? Like being home is actually pretty healthy.
Well, I guess it's the good part where you actually get to feel like a congressman.
Yeah,
you're the folks you represent, right? Get to actually listen and hear their issues and how you got elected in the first place, right? You flipped a district that had been Republican for many years. You flipped it pretty heavily, right? It was R plus 13 or some ridiculous number when you decided to run, wasn't it?
When I decided to run, and then it sort of became a 50-50 district in the middle of it. But we ended up winning by close to 5.5 points. And yeah, as you mentioned, like JD was running at the same time for United States Senate. And it's a 50-50 district. In fact, it's a third Democrat, third Republican, third Independent. And we won by 5.5. JD lost this district by close to 9. 8.5. So, I think that means that when you get to sort of middle of the road voters, they do want, somebody who's more pragmatic and thoughtful and experienced. And, I got a lot done when I was at City Hall here. I mean, a ton on public safety, on, basic services, trash, eviction prevention, youth jobs, those kinds of things that people care about. They don't like this chaos. And that's why I think Trump's numbers are so low, is that even though on one hand, people want to see active leadership, and they certainly get that from him, but it's too chaotic. There are these questions about corruption, and there's a level of cruelty in what they're doing that most Americans don't like. And so, they're underwater by a pretty significant margin. I mean, something like 55-60% of Americans do not like this.
Yeah. And speaking of that chaos, we've got, everything going on this past week. Obviously, we're recording a little earlier in the week than Friday, but, Ukraine, DC takeover. And then the latest thing is he's touting, or that we're this week is he's touting Putin's talking point that mail-in voting is corrupt. And so now he's decided he's going to try and outlaw mail-in voting through executive order. I mean, it's insanity, that kind of chaos. And the idea you just get rid of mail-in voting is just stupid, isn't it?
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, look, Vladimir Putin is a dictator, despot. I mean, he is one of the worst, people in charge of any country, let alone, a superpower like Russia. He's empire building. He is trying to grow the empire, and that's what the Ukraine war is. In addition to, the fact that he has stolen something like 35,000 children, and that's in part to try to like break the spirit of the Ukrainians. It's also, he's indoctrinating them and get them to, it's trafficking in a sense. Anyways, it's just horrible. He wants more than anything else to be able to do whatever he wants. And so, the things standing in his way, Europe and the United States, the free world. So he wants to do whatever he can to undermine us. And so the more division there is in the United States, that's good for Putin. And that's obviously what Trump does, is he divides and looks for opportunities to further divide. And he's doing that in DC, right? Like that's part of what he's doing, is he sees opportunities to cause chaos and conflict. That is what Putin wants, and Putin wants our democracy to fall apart. And so it is no surprise that Putin and Trump seem to be working together on undermining American democracy, because that is what's best for Putin. Putin is a legitimate strongman, and he is dealing with a wannabe strongman in Trump, who just wants to be part of this club. And they are all taking advantage of him at the detriment of the country. I mean, like Putin is literally walking all over this guy.
Right. And to see, I mean, it must be shocking as a member of the, Congress, as a member of our Article 1 branch, the government, legislative branch, to see literally the executive branch literally having our service members roll out a red carpet for a bloody despot, and then kind of treating our allies, the Europeans that came in this week, like unwanted guests in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, everything feels upside down, and to some extent it is. I mean, he's, caused more chaos, than any other president certainly in my lifetime. And I grew up with most of us did, with a very different kind of politics. There was, partisanship, but not like this. And we never had somebody who, was so cavalier or really disinterested in democracy, the rule of law, adhering to what, institutions stand for and why they matter. I mean, I saw a headline the other day or over the weekend, this is the first president who's actively not trying to cure cancer with the NIH cuts. So like, this is, and he is, single-handedly destroying the economy. All of it seems to be in part about him, getting richer, his friends getting richer, and them just sort of consolidating more and more power at the expense of the country, which is, obviously something we've never seen. And it's going to require us to not just fight back in the moment, but to put forward a vision for what I'm calling the sort of great American comeback, like how we emerge from this moment, and in a way where you see the middle class come back, you see our democracy come back, and the rule of law, our freedoms, everything that we hold true, our alliances around the world. There's going to have to be this sort of not just digging ourselves out of this hole, but rebuilding in a way where people look back and say, it was very bad with Trump, but then there was this great American comeback, and all of a sudden we are way better off than where we were when Trump took office.
That's a great place to transition. You're seeing your Republican colleagues are out trying to sell the big billionaire bills, I call it, because that's what it is. I stole that from one of the other candidates. The NRCC sent a memo of how to go on the offensive to their House reps. So they could sell it. They're selling it as a boon to the working class. The truth about the BBB is far from that, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the largest transfer of wealth from working people to the billionaire class in American history. So millionaires, and big corporations get huge tax giveaways. That's where most of the spending goes, is on them. And to pay for it, they did two things. One is they added $2.5 trillion to the debt, a deficit, and so I think in total it's $3 or $4 trillion in new debt. And then they are taking healthcare away from 15 million Americans. So you're talking about $1 trillion plus cut in healthcare. Add to that another $300 billion in food assistance cuts. Add to that another, $300 billion cuts to, energy tax credits to help people with their high cost of energy. So all of it is taking away from working people. And it's accelerating something that's happened over the course of the last, 30, 40, 50 years, where wealth and power has slowly but surely moved away from working people to the folks at the top. That's why you have this enormous wealth concentration that's going to kill the economy and kill the country. I mean, if we don't reverse course, and what I laid out in, my pledge to America, which is 10 bills that I think we should be leading on, that will get us out of this mess and be, allow us to do or pursue this great American comeback. It reverses what they did in this bill and what they're doing in general. It fixes the tax code first and foremost, so that everybody at the top pays all their taxes, and then you invest that money in reducing the deficit, balancing the budget, and providing additional tax relief for working people so that they can pay all their bills. It also restores all the healthcare cuts and creates an option for people to buy into Medicare, so that we have a public option finally. It takes on the issue of us needing to build again, build more housing, more infrastructure, more broadband. It's a comprehensive policy agenda that most Americans would say, yeah, this makes more sense than anything we're seeing right now.
And that's been the accusation against Democrats, right? I was going to transition to that because one of the accusations we hear constantly right now, well, the Democrat Party is broken, the numbers are low. Okay, whatever. But the accusation a lot of times is that all the Democrats offer is we're not Trump, right? And I think that's it. Is that how drove you to say, look, I want to have a vision for this? So you kind of wrote your own vision for this. That's driving you, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, I'm frustrated too, because I want to work on things. I want to fix things. I want to be inspired just like everybody else. I want to work on the most impactful, policy. I love this country. I want to see it do amazing things. And so there is obviously this moment of truth where, we have to be the firewall when it comes to the rule of law, when it comes to our democracy, when it comes to our alliances around the world and our national security, when it comes to, working people in our communities where, they're withholding, hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, obviously there's work right now. However, at some point we're going to transition and people are going to say, okay, well, what's next? And I think we have to lead on answering that question. And it has to be something that appeals to the broadest coalition of Americans. And that's why, I wanted to take the lead here and to stake my, flag, so to speak, on the direction of this comeback, which is, focus on affordability and fixing the tax code and making sure that people are able to pay all their bills and you're bringing prices down, and do it with real policy, not just rhetoric. Get the country building again so that, among other things, you're reducing rent because you're building so much, you're building a lot more housing. Fix the healthcare issues, and lead on education. People care about what's happening with their kids.
Yeah.
Lead on public safety. People care that their communities are safe. And so, this is a positive, plan for fixing what's broken and creating this era of American greatness that can only come from people who actually want to see it happen. And that's what has to follow this awful moment. It has to be something positive and solid so that people can grab onto it, be like, okay, we're heading in another direction.
Yeah. And the first one on the list was the Reward Hard Work, Not Wealth Act. I reading from your op-ed because I downloaded and copied in a Word document, no reason. You ensure that 100% of tax goes to working families, middle class, small business, farmers, or requiring the super wealthy and large corporations to pay their taxes like the rest of us. Take back Congress's tariff authority, because that's what would decide things to me is how much of your Republican colleagues, especially, just allow themselves to step out of their Article 1 responsibilities, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, he, in large part because the most power that he really has, right? A lot of what he does is sort of fake power, or you better believe I have power kind of power. He by like deploying, the National Guard, it just gives the sense that he's all powerful, and so communities have to remember like where their power is too. And what the priority is. The priority is to keep people safe. So you have to lead in a way where you're saying, okay, buddy, if you want to send us people, that's fine, but here's what they're going to do, because we are serious about fighting crime. But he does have a lot of power over Republicans in Congress, because he can say either vote with me, even though you don't want to, or I'm going to primary you. And so members have to decide, and this is true for Democrats too in other instances. I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just saying this is part of the job. You have to decide whether or not you're willing to lose your job to do what's best for your district and the country. And the answer should always be yes. And, despite what I or others think of Thomas Massie on other things, Thomas Massie is willing to lose his job and be primaried to do what he believes is the right thing. Now, he thinks that their mega spending bill was bad because of the deficit spending, and it was. I think it's bad because of the deficit spending and the fact that they're taking healthcare away from 15 million people. But at least he stood his ground, and now he's facing a primary. And so the question is going to be, if Massie wins, that's a huge blow to Trump and his ability to hold these members on this tight of a leash.
Yeah. And I think that's what's going on. Again, pulling also, and I'd love to talk about, as you see, this bill, as you call it, a bill, how do you see that investment working? Like, what are the tools? I mean, I'm sure people wonder, like, what are the tools that you would have at the federal level to increase these houses? I mean, we hear, I think for me, especially because what I liked about what you've written is you have solutions. I mean, everybody talks about, we need more affordable housing. And then the conversation sort of starts there. For those of us of a certain age, I grew up in St. Louis in the 70s. We remember the big towers that were eventually bulldozed because they were unlivable and unuseful. I mean, so I bet you there's a certain, like, Gen Xers and others worry about the idea. What's your vision for what does an affordable housing plan and a road work look like to you?
Yeah, so it does three things. One is it says, look, you do need some additional cash. And so it sets up a housing and infrastructure bank with federal dollars. $50 to $100 billion would be a significant amount of money that communities could pull down for housing projects, infrastructure projects, lane broadband, you name it, clean energy work. But a lot of housing and in a lot of these projects, housing projects, they need additional cash, whether it's, low interest or interest free or grant dollars, just straight cash to help, it quote unquote pencil out so that they can make it work and they can go ahead and get the financing to go build new housing. So you do need additional resources, cash. Two, you got to have building reform, or it's called permitting reform, but no one really knows what that means. You just have to get rid of a ton of the red tape associated with building housing, building broadband, building anything. And some of that stuff that Democrats have led on, but it has piled up to the point where all of a sudden the red tape is now causing us to not do anything or do things so slowly that we can't keep up with what people need. And so you got to clean up all that stuff. And that's permitting reform. And Ezra Klein and others have talked about this in terms of the abundance work, which is you have to get rid of what slows down us building new bridges, us building new housing. It's just a lot of red tape. And then the third is you have to incentivize, because you can't force this, but you have to incentivize local communities to change its land use and zoning policies so that they are building, you're able to build in more housing in more places. Our zoning and land use policies really do sort of mean that in most of our communities, you can only build single family housing.
Right. It's almost easier to build a McMansion than it is, a condo complex or affordable condo complex, isn't it?
Yeah, some of this is best, understood with one example, or like a good example is the regulations around elevators. So obviously, if you're building a high rise or a lot of housing, you need elevators. And we have put so many, really restrictions, rules on elevators. Some of them are smart because they keep people safe, but some of it is redundant or unnecessary. And you've got to clean all that up so that people are like, oh, I'll add, it is now less expensive for me to add some elevators. I can do a couple more floors. And that means more units.
Yeah. Fascinating. I mean, it's funny. It's just when you get into these, when you unpack these, those are the things you discover. Those are the things that are stopping those opportunities. People think, oh, it's the YIMBYs, the NIMBYs. And no, really in the way it's well-meaning regulation that stacks, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Federal, local, state.
the zoning and land use stuff is the not my backyard, folks. And the permitting reform, the building, I call it building reform because it's just the cutting the red tape. Yeah, that's some of that's environmental stuff that is good, but maybe we've got to like sort of balance what we're doing, or speed up some of the environmental impact studies so that you're doing your best to mitigate harm, but you're not going to slow a project down for 8 years or whatever it is. And some of it is cash. I mean, we do need more money in these projects.
I agree. And it's going to have to, what do you think is as you look at this list, it's long. If you, I know you were probably working with your colleagues trying to get more on board, right? I'm sure. I noticed you're not being stopped. That's good. And some of the things I joke about a lot is as I give speeches and talk to folks is there's what 215 of y'all that do different things. What if you had a choice to say to your colleagues right now, look, this is what I want to see us do. We go into day one. This is around the field.
It's the first bill. I mean, like it is the Rewarding Hard Work, Not Wealth Act, which fixes the tax code so money is going back to working people, like CAC. And we're using the tax code to, make the folks at the top pay all their taxes so that you have more money coming in. You can pay down the debt a little bit, and you can provide tax relief in a refundable way over 12 months so that people are getting money every month.
Right away, not in a year from now or 2 years from now, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that helps to stimulate the economy and just make life infinitely more affordable. It also needs to be paired with ending price gouging, really tackling corporate consolidation and taking our tariff authority back so that, that as a whole will dramatically reduce costs and make life much more affordable. I mean, that's the biggest. I think we are going to have what I'd call affordability elections. Like the economy is going to be the number one issue, but it is about affordability and people's bank accounts. Do they have enough money to pay for the things that they need? Right. And part of the American dream is the ability to also have some money to take a vacation and spend time with your family and save so that you can retire with dignity. So do working people who are working their tails off have that in their bank account? The answer right now is absolutely not. And so you have to do these things in order to fundamentally change the economy so that they do. That is bill number one. Now, in previous Congresses, I think this is number 7 or 8 on my list, though it's probably number 1 in my heart. Outside of the economic one is the John Lewis Voting Rights or For the People's Act, which would end voter suppression, end partisan gerrymandering, ban dark money, and the kind of corruption that we see. That is desperately needed. So it's like that's number 1, or that's number 2, but I could go either way. But we have to both, the Reward Hard Work and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, they work together to return wealth and power back to people. Because right now, wealth and power has landed intentionally because of what folks who are either billionaires and now run the government, or who pay their politicians. They have so much of the wealth and power, and that's why things are as bad as they are. So you have to fix that.
And people feel it. I think that's what's interesting to me is I did grow up, hearing it's the economy, it's kind of stupid. Of course, James Carville's still talking about that. But in a lot of ways, even then, when that happened, I was in the Army as a young man then. It really was about the price of groceries in a lot of ways. But this is truly, that's why when I talk about affordability. And you nailed it. There was an organization that came out, Litzinger Institute, but they talk about this idea of a comfortable, a good quality. Can I go to the movies? Can I pay for Netflix? And now we've got this huge gap between the largest gap probably in history of affordability of a home and what people get paid. I look at my own children. I've got a 32-year-old son who's in a corporate job. His wife's in the same corporation. They're stuck in their starter home. They can't even have more kids because the house is too small. And I think, man, maybe we've frittered away the American dream we thought was the American dream, and somehow it just slid through our fingers. And you're right. It's about affording all of it, not just the groceries. So and they feel it. Americans feel it, don't they?
Yeah. And I mean, so if it was the economy stupid, in the 92 race, which it was, and that was the one where Carville ran Clinton's campaign. I don't know if it's affordability stupid, but this is going to be affordability in election. I mean, it's affordability.
Yeah, I think we can see it, and it's not even like we got a choice. It just really is. I mean, there's just no way. For me, I've always felt, as I talk to folks in my area, I've talked to a few folks. I know you're having town halls. That's what we're hearing over and over. It's not. It's just that they feel the crush, and now the Republicans have passed a bill.
Yeah, I think one of the big mistakes that Democrats made, when I started running, was they kept telling everyone the economy was good or getting better, or talk about the accomplishments. And I remember just always saying, that's just not what I'm hearing. It's not what I see in my own financials. Things are tight for most people, and it doesn't make sense to try to tell them it's something that it's not when they're struggling. And I think Trump is making that same mistake by saying to people, look, the economy's great, when everyone's like, no, it's actually worse. It's way worse. And I think that's probably why his numbers are so low.
I agree. Well, reality doesn't always match the myth, and here we are. Well, with that, I've kept you for a while. I know we're past our time. I'm sure the staff's waving in the background. Having said that, where can people find out more? I guess really, I mean, obviously I put your website up and your official website up. But where can they find the pledge? Where can they find more information about the pledge?
So it's on, I mean, if you want to read it, it's on my Substack, and just, it's Greg Landsman. You can find it there. If I go through it, if you're more of a visual person, we did a couple videos. You can find those videos about the plan on Instagram or TikTok. I think it's on Twitter too, most everywhere. Right. But we're going to keep re-releasing, meaning that it's going to be an iterative process. I like the idea of taking the feedback that we've gotten so far, which has been great. You're missing this, or could you explain more here, or this didn't make sense. And then, re-releasing it. So we'll re-release this in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll keep doing it, right? This should be something we build together.
I got some notes. I got red notes on my version of it. Okay. So I'll send it your way. Gee, thanks. Thanks, podcast guy. No, I really appreciate it.
Well, no, it's great.
Yeah, thanks for your time. I appreciate. I always love talking to you and your thinking. I obviously we were rigid lockstep that we do have to present a vision that's alternative, just being against something, and that's what people are. That's what the hope. That's where the belief comes from, right? That's where the hope comes from. Is you got to believe there could be a better time. There it is.
What do you know? I have way too many tattoos, but this was not my first, but this was one of my first, I believe.
I love it. Yeah, I got mine. Not done yet. So that's my mom. Well, thank you, Greg. I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'll let you go, and we'll be. You won't get able to group me. I'll be harassing your staff again soon.
No problem.
A great conversation. As you can tell, I really enjoy talking to Congressman Landsman. We have a lot of similar ideas to things, and we sit. His district was red, like the district I sit in here in Missouri, and it's great to see the perspective and learn from somebody who's gone through the tough stuff to come out where he is. I hope you'll check out that his Substack is greglandsman.substack.com. Super, I think it's Greg Landsman with him. He's a unique name like me. It's worth a look. And it's not perfect. He and I talked the pre-show that they're actually iterating on it. getting ready, as you heard, the end there is going to issue upgrades, but it's a great place to start. There's a lot of smart stuff in there that I hope more Democrats will take advantage of and look at, because we have to offer a vision of hope and reality. People are beat down right now. I hear it everywhere I go. You know it. I see it in the comments. I see your comments. I see these conversations we're having right here live on the show, and then the comments on the videos after we post them. It's not enough to say we don't obviously Trump is bad, but we also have to say, here's our plan for when he's gone. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the things we're going to pass. Here's the investigations we're going to do. We have to have a plan, because going into this election thinking, oh, it's just going to be hunky dory, or I think the mistake, and I'll be open about it, the mistake in 2020 was thinking, hey, I think the Biden administration thought, well, if we just go back to normal, everything will be fine. It's not. You can't just go back to normal. You have to reset the clock. You have to reset the lines that have been broken. You have to glue the lines back together that were broken. It's just like when we have a penetration in our defenses in the military. We go back in, we rebuild the trenches, and we fill them back up again. So I really feel strongly. It's great. So I highly recommend checking out Representative Landsman's Substack and his story. In the meantime, thanks for joining us. It's so great to see you here. So good to see the usual suspects. I appreciate you guys so much. We've got a lot of exciting things going on right now. I did let you know that our Too Late to Cancel Sunday show has been put on hiatus for a bit. We're doing some rework things. Got some exciting stuff coming up that I can't quite tell you about, but in the coming weeks, you're going to hear some exciting news from us, and I can't wait to share it with you. I think you're going to love it. I hope so. And I hope you'll support that when it comes out. In the meantime, as always, find us on our Substack, fbwellman.substack.com. That's where I write. I'm doing a lot more writing these days. I've been saying that a lot. I'm doing a lot more writing on these things. The thing is, the perspectives I have on things, like my view of the Ukraine summit, and the Russian summit, which was something bad happened in that room. Okay. There's no question. The way his staff came out literally shook, is how multiple reporters described Carolyn Levitt and Marco Rubio. Something in that room shook them, and it'll be interesting to see if we ever find out what that was, but we'll find out. In the meantime, so check out fpwellman.substack.com. As always, all of our shows on the On Democracy channel and everything else. So as always, stick with the Midas Mighty. Follow me on social media. Join us here every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. I love hanging out with you guys. Check out the hot seats. This week we had an In the Hot Seat with Angus King III, running for governor of Maine. He's not a Nepo baby, folks. I mean, I trust me. I talked to the guy. He has the same name as that guy, his dad, but he has set his own course in life and has nothing to hand it to him. It's really an impressive guy. As well as I talked to Sean Harris, who's running against Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, by the way, has increased her net worth by about $4 million in the last 2 years. Weird, right? Or more. So with all that, check those out. Those are In the Hot Seat with FP Wellman, right on the Midas Touch Network, everywhere you find them. Thanks for being with me. Thanks for your constant time. I love hanging out with you guys. We will see you again here next week, same place, same time.